one thing that gets drilled into everyone at Sony Pictures, from our chairman and the head of a movie studio, is that we're in the storytelling business. Technology like 3D and all the great stuff going on is a big part of it. It drives people, drives ticket sales, but ultimately we have to have really good stories. And there's something really cool about our industry, because the leadership in the storytelling industry is here in Los Angeles. A little bit in New York, but the epicenter of the world is the United States. Is one of our biggest export. I'm from the East Coast, so I can give a little bit. But and while there are great art in the rest of the world, it hasn't quite reached the level here in the States from an export standpoint and kind of translation. We actually have had a lot of success with format shows. So we take, for instance, The Nanny, which was one of our productions. And right now, The Nanny's in production in like 4 or 5 different countries around the world. There's the Spanish version, which is on all of Latin America. We essentially sell the format, same script, but they change it and modify it. But it's essentially, instead of Fran Drescher, it's a new actress, new cast. There's a lot of growth in that. And that it's an export, it's a product we've made here. So from that standpoint, there is kind of the consumerization of even making our content and more people globally, but there's still pretty good leadership here. On the technology side, I think it's kind of what camp do you fit into? So we do a lot of global sourcing. We use India quite a bit. There's other parts of the world, but it's almost like are you on the J2E engineering camp, or are you the Microsoft camp? I mean, really from if you're going down the J2E side, you're an engineer. You're part of the cog in the system, and you're trained. You go to the best schools, but I don't know how much innovation there necessarily is there. Whereas, we're here in the Microsoft office, and the Microsoft motto is, the lone developer with a bunch of tools, and they're going to create really cool things. And to date, at least, I head up a global sourcing team too. There are not as many places around the world as you might think, despite the great education and technology, where they have that kind of lone developer mentality of, I'm going to go create a Facebook or a Google. So I'm sure that will come, but there's still something, despite, I don't know, I don't want to get too political. I mean, there's a little bit of our culture that still makes us competitive there.
Data says that we're gonna get outpaced at some point here, right? So you look at China has the biggest social networking company in the world, right? I think it's called Tencent. Correct me if I'm wrong. They have more users than Facebook, right? So at some point here, they will ultimately generate more revenue. I mean, they're going to drive it at more than Facebook. So I just think, in terms of mass and math, at some point, we just can't sit on top. That being said, the United States probably has more advertising dollars by far than any other country or market in the world. And so I think that to that end, as long as you can commercialize that and you're driving a commercial market like that with those kind of dollars, we're going to keep some level of competitive advantage, because there's a place to try out the new products and actually make that happen.
I just think you're correct. So in the room, who here has been to India or China? That's still a relatively small portion. I mean, I think anyone in our industry, unless you're kind of in the last maybe 5 years of your career, if you visit India or China, you know that your career is going to change if you want to stay in technology. You're going to have to do something and operate at a global level, unless you invent the next Facebook. I mean, even then you'll be marketing globally. It's just, there's kind of no doubt about it that you're going to have to tap into what's going on in the global chain, because that is where a lot of the resources are if you want to do something at a larger scale. I don't know.
And I haven't been to India or China, but having been to Korea, we're just going to see new patterns of consumption, and it won't be driven here. It'll be driven by what's happening globally.
Yeah, it impacts our market. Like, for instance, we're still trying to figure out what the mobile strategy is here, but like in Korea and most of Asia, mobile phones is where it's at. We've got
and Androids in particular. The growth is unbelievable.
Yes, so Sony, we don't own any networks domestically, but we own about 80 networks internationally, and a lot of where here we're building second, digital content for Crackle site or YouTube or whatever. There, it's all mobile. So it's really kind of having that global reaction time period, and that's where we're trying to figure out how to get our systems aligned with that, because it's hard to get the managing director of a territory out there to really call back to headquarters and say, hey, I want to enter a new market and start selling stuff on a digital phone, and make sure it's in the right system, and make sure the music's cleared, and the business moves a lot quicker than that.